everybody, this is Jennifer J, and this is part 35 of Moving Forward. Let me get my timer set. And we are in Holy Week. So I think last time I left off on Holy Wednesday, and this is a little bit of a continuation. It's the same day, but it's a different service. So we had Bible study that night at Pilgrim Rest. And so my pastor, Terry Mackey, who I just love and adore, was doing a Bible study, and it's pretty short. I mean, I took short notes because it was really good, but there was just a few things I want to touch on for you guys. But he said, well, I wrote down, have a poker face. Let insults roll off of you. Like, you don't have to become preoccupied with what people say. So you fail to realize the bigger picture when you do that. And so he said, when you step into the room, remember that you represent not just yourself, but your family, your pastor, your church, and most of all, your Lord. So the weight of the moment is bigger than you. So when someone says something, let it roll off. Keep your poker face and keep your wits about you, you know. Pray before you go into situations. It could be anything, walking into a family gathering, walking into church, walking into work, walking into the grocery store. Pray all the time, because you don't know what you're going to encounter when you encounter other people. And that could be in traffic, it could be anywhere. But remember who you're representing. And he said in Leviticus 19:18, it says, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge among anyone, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. And so you have to be under his lordship. And those are really the only notes I took about that, because that's what really spoke to me, was just remembering. I used to tell my kids when they were little, you know, you represent your mom and dad too. So, you know, get out there and behave yourself, because you're representing our family. And they are, but you have to remember you're also representing God's family. You're representing your church. You're representing your community. You're representing your God. And how are you going to portray that? Because if people are watching you being a Christian, are you living it out? Or are they watching you be a Christian at church on Sunday, but not in traffic on Monday morning? Or, you know, not in the bar on Friday night or whatever. And I'm not saying you can't go to the bar on Friday night, but I'm saying remember who you're representing, right? So we don't want to get in a barroom brawl or mouth off and get in an argument with someone over something, and be swearing and whatever and acting a fool. You got to remember who you're representing. So in all situations, wherever you're going, try to remember that. And then I'm also going to go over Maundy Thursday, because it's Holy Week and I get real excited. So I watched my pastor, Terry Mackey, but he was at Fifth African Baptist Church. And I don't know if you guys follow me on Facebook or Instagram, but I follow them, so you can always find them from my page. But it's called Fifth African Baptist Church, and it's spelled out, fifth, not with a 5. So if you're looking for them, and he did a sermon on Genesis 22:7 and following. And he called it, He's Going to Where He's Coming From. And this is an important one to remember for later, because we're in April, but when we get into June, this comes back into play again. So it's something you might want to take notes on. But he asks, when does God provide? And he says, in time. He doesn't provide too soon, and he doesn't provide too late. He provides in time, on time, and with obedience. There has to be obedience first and then provision. And I know we've talked about that a lot before. But he will provide just in the nick of time. I know a lot of people call God the 11th hour God, but that's because he's not early. He's just in the nick of time. And so he's talking about Abraham here, because it's Genesis 22. And in this story, Abraham is taking Isaac up the mountain to be sacrificed. And Isaac asks him, you know, I see that we're going to make a sacrifice, but where's the lamb? And Isaac doesn't know that he's the lamb at this point. At least the story doesn't tell us that he knows. But Abraham says God will provide. What Abraham knew was that even if God told him to sacrifice Isaac, and Abraham knew that if he sacrificed Isaac, that God was able to raise him from the dead. He had complete faith in that. So he trusted God that much that he was willing to sacrifice his son. And this very much mirrors Jesus and God and the sacrifice of his only son. But God provides a lamb, right? There's a ram in the thicket when Abraham goes to, sacrifice Isaac, and the angel says, don't do it. And then he sees the ram, because the ram was coming up the other side of the hill at the same time. As they're walking up this way, the ram's walking up this way. They can't see it. They can't see through the mountain to see that the ram is being provided. He's just completely trusting. He's just going on his journey and trusting God to meet him there, which is what I'm doing right now. And believe me, I cannot see on the other side of the mountain, but I'm completely trusting God to meet me there. And so in the Hebrew language, and I thought this was really interesting, but there's a different term for lamb and ram. And so it says that God will provide a lamb, but what God provides is a ram. And he said, don't predict how God is going to provide. And I thought that was really wise advice, because we do that, don't we? We look at, because we have our perspective, and we only have human perspective, right? So we look at our perspective and we see the reasonable ways that we can determine how God could provide, because that's what we do. What we don't know is his perspective and how he's really going to provide. And usually it just wows us, because we'd have never even dreamed of that. But of course it makes so much sense once we see it. So the ram was the substitute for the son. And why didn't they see the ram? They couldn't see the miracle. The miracle was coming up the other side of the mountain. They couldn't see it, but it was there. And so he just says in Hebrews 11:19, even if Abraham had to sacrifice Isaac, he knew God had the power to bring him back to life again. It would have been a first. Nobody had ever been brought back to life before. Jesus hadn't raised from the dead. Lazarus hadn't been raised from the dead. Abraham hadn't seen anybody die and come back to life. So that's an amazing faith to know that even if God kills my son, he can bring him back to life. And so sometimes the faith that you have, you maybe haven't seen the miracle before, but that doesn't mean God isn't going to provide it. And so I'm thinking about that because I'm trying to find a place to live, right? I'm thinking about, where am I going to go? And what am I going to do? And, I don't know, but God will provide. And so I just picture myself like Abraham. I picture myself just kind of going up the mountain. I'm going on this journey, and where he wants me to live is on the other side. I know a place to live can't really walk, but you get the figure of speech with me here. And it's going to meet me. My miracle's going to be there. It's going to be there. And you guys are going to get to be along for the journey to see how it comes out. But that is all I'm going to say about that today. The next segment here in a few days is going to be the Good Friday service. And I'm just telling you, that service knocked my socks off. And a lot of questions were answered for me that were along in my journey, things that we've talked about before. And so it was very good. It started with my pastor again, but this time he was at St. Bartley Church. Fifth Avenue, I think, was in New Orleans. Let me look real quick. And then he went, that one was in New Orleans. And then he went to Huntsville, Alabama, and did a Good Friday service at St. Bartley Church. And you can find them at stbarclaychurch.org. And if you look for the Good Friday service, it was on April 15th of 2022 by Reverend Dr. Terry Mackey. And it was called It's Finished, But It Ain't Over. And so we'll talk about that next time, but we're also going to talk about Life Point Church. And so just be ready, because it might be just a little bit longer next time. This one was really short. But there are still some good nuggets out of it. I hope you guys got some good nuggets out of it. And just remember that Jesus has your miracle. Just like we talked about last time about the water that turned into wine, it had to get out of its natural element to be used for something more. Your miracle is in your reach. You just have to move, and you have to believe, and you have to trust God. So I hope you'll do that this week. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. And if there's a way I can pray for you this week, I'd love to. So just let me know. Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.